Okay, so if you've ever felt, kind of trapped in that deal, the one where you trade, what, 40 years of your best energy for maybe, just maybe, some freedom when you're in your 60s, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Hmm.
We're not just here to complain about the 9 to 5 today. We're actually digging into a pretty comprehensive stack of sources that offer a radical blueprint for getting out,
Hmm.
like right now.
And joining what these sources are calling the new rich.
The new rich.
Okay.
And this is super important because I think most people miss this core point. You listening right now, you probably don't want like a specific number, like $10 million just sitting there in a bank.
Right. It sounds nice, but
Yeah, what you actually crave, what you really want, is the lifestyle you believe only that kind of massive wealth can buy.
okay. That's the switch then. It's not the pile of cash, it's the freedom it represents.
Exactly. It's the freedom. Maybe for you that means traveling to exotic places or, having the flexibility to just take 6 months off.
Yeah.
Or, like the source says, working from a laptop in some beautiful thatched roof bungalow somewhere.
Precisely. That's the image, right? So the mission for these new rich, the NR, is getting that lifestyle, that complete freedom without needing the 8-figure bank balance first.
Okay, so how? These sources must lay out a plan.
They do. A very aggressive 4-step acronym, actually. It's a roadmap designed specifically to separate your income from the time you spend working on it.
Separate income from time. That's the dream for a lot of
Right.
people.
It really is. And this blueprint, it works whether you're, say, an executive trying to get more vacation time or an entrepreneur who's just drowning in micromanagement.
And this roadmap, this framework we're going to use today, it's called DEAL, right?
That's it. Deal. D is for definition. That's about setting totally new rules, new objectives for this game.
Okay, D for definition. E is for elimination. This is where you cut out all the non-essential stuff, the busy work, to free up that first crucial ingredient, time. Elimination for time. Makes sense. Then A is for automation, putting your cash flow on autopilot. This uses things like geo-arbitrage and outsourcing to get the second ingredient, income, but passive income. Automation for income. Got it. And finally, L is for liberation. This is like the mobile manifesto, giving you the third and final ingredient. Mobility, freedom to move, definition, elimination, automation, liberation, DLA. Okay. And just to set expectations, there's a pretty startling personal anecdote in here, isn't there?
Yeah, the author's own story is pretty dramatic. Going from working like 14-hour days, earning maybe $40,000 a year,
Which sounds like a lot of people's reality.
totally, to working just 4 hours a week and pulling in $40,000 a month.
Okay, wow. 4 hours a week, $40,000. That definitely signals a massive shift is possible.
It sets the stage for the kind of radical change we're exploring here. It's not just tinkering around the edges.
All right, let's dive into that first step then. D for definition. Setting the new rules. And the first rule seems to be about how we even measure wealth.
Exactly. If you're stuck on the traditional way, you're focused on absolute income, just the raw dollar amount. How big is the paycheck?
That's what most people think of as wealth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It is. But the new rich, they reject that.
Yeah.
They focus on relative income. And this always factors in two things. The dollars, yes, but also the time it takes to earn them, the hours worked. Okay, so dollars and time. If you're not looking at time, you're missing the point.
You're missing the real measure of wealth, according to these sources. You only have a measure of how much you're hustling.
Okay, the source has this like a 5th grade math problem to illustrate it. Let's unpack that because the numbers are kind of shocking.
Yeah, it's a great comparison. So you have Jane Doe. She makes $100,000 a year. Sounds fantastic, right?
Absolutely, solid income.
But she works 80 hours a week to get it. So if you break that down, she's earning $25 an hour.
80 hours. That's intense. Okay, $25 an hour.
Then you've got John Doe. He makes $50,000 a year, literally half her salary.
Okay, half the income.
But wait for it. He only works 10 hours a week.
10 hours.
10 hours, which means he's making $100 an hour.
Wow. Okay, so Jane makes twice as much money overall.
In absolute terms, yes.
But John makes 4 times as much per hour. And he has, 70 more free hours every single week?
Exactly. In relative terms, John is 4 times richer. He controls vastly more of his own time, his own life.
That really forces you to rethink things. Time, not money, is the truly non-renewable resource.
That's the core pivot. Now, the sources are quick to point out, John's $50 case still needs to be enough to actually fund his dreams?
Right, it's not about being broke but free.
No, absolutely not. The income has to support the desired lifestyle. But relative income, that's the real measure of wealth, of luxury for the new rich.
This focus on time naturally leads to questioning the whole retirement paradigm, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. The sources are pretty brutal about the traditional retirement myth, saving for 20, 30 years. It's misguided for a few key reasons.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, you're basically sacrificing your best physical years, your prime. You're trading your vitality now for potential comfort later when you might be too old or worn out to really enjoy it.
That's a heavy trade-off when
Yeah.
you put it like that. Giving up your youth.
The sources argue nothing can really justify that long-term sacrifice of, well, just being able to do things.
And then there's the money side. Does the math even work out for most people?
Often, no. Most people actually won't save enough, especially with inflation. That $1 million you might be aiming for. Over 30 years, it could easily become, as the source puts it, chump change.
So you trade your youth for a nest egg that ends up being not quite enough.
Yeah.
Like a lower middle class life all over again.
Exactly. But maybe the most devastating point is psychological. Think about it. If you're the kind of ambitious, driven person who can actually save that million, 1 week into traditional retirement, you'll likely be bored out of your mind. You'll start inventing problems just to have something to solve. Or you'll look for another job.
Huh. Defeats the whole purpose of waiting all those decades.
Completely. So the alternative proposed is the mini retirement.
Okay, mini retirement. What does that actually mean? It's not just a long vacation, is it?
No, it's explicitly called the anti-vacation. It's not about escaping your life for 2 weeks. It's about fundamentally changing it, integrating periods of rest and exploration throughout your life.
So it's recurring.
Yeah.
A lifestyle feature.
Exactly. It means relocating somewhere, maybe one place, for, say, 1 to 6 months at a time. And doing this repeatedly, you experience the world at a pace that actually allows the culture, the environment, to change you.
Instead of just skimming the surface, the author mentions aiming for, 1 month overseas for every 2 months of work?
Yeah, that's his rhythm. It integrates the travel and the rest into the working life, not as some far-off reward.
Okay, to pull this off, you need more than just a plan. You need a different mindset, right? Some new philosophical rules, definitely. One big one is less is not laziness.
Well,
Less is not laziness. Okay, unpack that.
It means doing less meaningless work so you can focus your energy on things that are actually important to you personally. Our work culture, especially in the US, tends to glorify sacrifice, right? The person who stays latest is the hero.
Yeah, putting in the hours.
But the NR ignore that. They focus purely on results, on productivity and output, not on time spent looking busy.
Focus on effectiveness, not just effort. What's another rule? This one's pretty aggressive. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Ooh, okay.
yeah, that's it.
Sounds risky. Can seem that way. But the advice is quite clinical. If the potential downside of taking an action is moderate, or if it's reversible in some way, don't give people the chance to say no. Why not?
Because people, bosses, colleagues, they're often quick to stop something new before it starts. But once you're already moving, and especially if you're getting results, they become much more hesitant to step in and undo it.
So it's kind of leveraging inertia. People don't want to shut down something that's already working.
Pretty much. It acknowledges that human tendency to avoid disrupting something that's already in motion, even if they wouldn't have approved it beforehand.
Okay, forgiveness, not permission. What else?
Things in excess become their opposite.
Like too much of a good thing.
Exactly. Too much free time, too much idleness, it actually becomes toxic. It turns into boredom, anxiety, lack of purpose. It becomes poisonous, as the source says.
So lifestyle design isn't about creating endless empty hours.
No, it's about ensuring the positive use of free time, doing what you want to do, not just filling time because you feel you have to do something. Purposeful leisure, not just idleness.
All right, so we've defined new rules, new goals. But this all sounds great in theory. How do you actually take that first step? Especially when it feels terrifying, like quitting a job or starting something new. This is where, honestly, one of the most powerful tools comes in. Fear setting.
Yeah.
Fear setting. Okay. The quote used is perfect. Named must your fear be before banish it you can. From Yoda, actually. Love it.
The point is vague, undefined anxiety. It's completely paralyzing. You can't fight a shadow. The solution is to define your nightmare. What is the absolute worst-case scenario? Spell it out in excruciating detail.
So not just I might fail, But how might you fail? What would that look like specifically?
Exactly. The source gives a structure. 3 columns. Column 1, define the nightmare. List every single awful thing that could possibly go wrong if you take that leap, quitting the job, launching the business, whatever it is. Get specific. 10, 20 thing. Okay, define the fear in detail. Column 2.
Prevention. How can you prevent each of those bad outcomes listed in column 1? What concrete steps can you take now to minimize the chances of them happening? Mitigation planning. And column 3.
Repair. If the absolute worst does happen, if the nightmare scenario comes true, how could you fix it? What steps could you take to get back on track?
Okay. And the insight is?
The insight, almost always, is that 99% of your fears are fully reversible. They're not fatal. They're temporary setbacks at worst.
The author's own story about this is pretty compelling, right? Even when he was making serious money.
Yeah, he was making $70,000 a month with his company, Brain Quicken, but felt totally miserable and trapped. He was paralyzed by the thought of taking a sabbatical, terrified the company would just implode without him.
Understandable fear.
But then he did the fear setting exercise. What's the absolute worst case if the company collapses while he's away? He realized, well, he had skills. He could get a job bartending temporarily. He could sell some furniture.
Basically, the worst case wasn't catastrophic ruin. It was manageable inconvenience.
Exactly. None of the potential outcomes were life-ending. The cost of getting back on track was tiny compared to the ongoing cost of staying miserable in a situation he hated, even if it was lucrative.
And this gave another person, Hans Keeling the lawyer, the courage to quit too.
Right. Hans was terrified of quitting his high-paying lawyer job. His real fear wasn't financial, it was dying with his potential unrealized. The fear setting showed him the absolute worst outcome of quitting was probably just having to go back to being a lawyer he didn't like. Not exactly the end of the world.
And he went on to start a surf adventure company in Brazil instead. Nexus Surf, yeah. Became successful. The huge lesson here for you, the listener, is this.
Yeah.
Often, the thing we fear doing the most is precisely the thing we most need to do. Because the fear is a compass pointing towards growth.
In a way, yes. And if you define risk properly, as the source suggests, the likelihood of an irreversible negative outcome than doing nothing, staying stuck. Inaction becomes the greatest risk of all. Those lost years are the truly irreversible cost.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful reframing of risk.
Yeah.
Inaction is the biggest danger. It really is.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's move into the second letter of deal. E for elimination. This is where we start carving out that essential ingredient.
Yeah.
Exactly. Before you can automate anything effectively, you've got to trim the fat, cut out the waste. And that means understanding the difference between just being busy and actually being productive.
Which comes down to efficiency versus effectiveness. I think a lot of us pride ourselves on being efficient, right?
We do, but the sources argue that efficiency without effectiveness is, well, pointless. Efficiency is just doing a task well, maybe faster or cheaper.
Like sorting your emails really quickly.
Perfect example. Someone who checks email 30 times a day, has complex folders, fancy rules. They're highly efficient at processing email. But are they effective?
Probably not if it keeps pulling them away from important work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're efficient at managing constant interruption, but far from effective, as the source puts it, because that activity isn't moving them closer to their actual goals.
How do we become effective? This brings us to the Pareto principle, right?
Yeah.
The 80-20 rule. Yes, Vilfredo Pareto's observation that generally 80% of the results come from only 20% of the effort or inputs. The trick is applying this ruthlessly to figure out which 20% matters.
In all areas, like work, customers, maybe even personal life.
Absolutely. Identify the vital few and eliminate the trivial many. The Brain Quicken case study here is just mind-blowing in its application.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So the author had 120 wholesale customers, but when he analyzed the numbers, just 5 of them.
5 out of 120. That's like 4%.
Exactly. Those 5 customers were bringing in 95% of the total revenue.
95% from 4% of the customers. That's skewed.
Incredibly skewed. And guess where he was spending his time? He calculated he was spending 98% of his time and energy chasing the other 115 customers, the ones bringing in only 5% of the revenue.
Wow. So what did he do? I mean, firing 95% of your customers sounds insane.
It sounds insane, but he looked at the costs, the time costs, the stress cost of servicing those low-value, high-maintenance customers. He realized that cost was actually higher than the small amount of revenue they generated.
So it was actually costing him more to keep them than to let them go.
In terms of his most valuable resource time, yes. So he stopped actively contacting 95% of them, and he outright fired the worst 2%, the ones who caused the most headaches. He focused only on the top producers.
Okay, the results. Did the business tank?
The opposite. His weekly hours plummeted from over 80 down to about 15.
80 to 15.
And incredibly, his monthly income doubled from $30,000 to $60,000 within 4 weeks.
Double the income by working like 80% less.
Yeah.
Because he could now focus all his energy on serving and expanding business with his best customers, the ones who are actually profitable and easier to deal with.
Yeah.
The takeaway is huge. Being busy is often just laziness, lazy thinking, you mean,
Yeah.
not doing the hard work of figuring out what actually matters.
Exactly. Lazy thinking and indiscriminate action. If you feel constantly busy, you're probably avoiding the uncomfortable task of identifying and focusing on the critical few things.
Okay, so 80-20 helps identify what to work on. How do we make sure we actually get it done efficiently? This is where Parkinson's law comes in.
Yes. Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. Simple, but profound. Give yourself a week, it takes a week. Give yourself a day, it takes a day.
Precisely. So the strategy is to combine these two laws. Use 80-20 to identify the few truly critical tasks. Then, use Parkinson's law by setting deliberately short, even seemingly impossibly short, deadlines for them.
Force yourself to focus.
Exactly. The pressure clarifies. The source mentions having to write a 30-page paper worth a huge chunk of his grade, basically overnight due to some last-minute issue.
An all-nighter. Fun times.
Yeah. But the intense pressure forced him to be absolutely ruthless about what was essential. No fluff. And it ended up being one of the best papers he wrote in years. Pressure creates focus.
So the practical rule for us, the listeners.
Try to have no more than 2 mission-critical tasks on your list for any given day. 2 absolute must-dos. And if you have more, ask yourself the hard question for each one. If this is the only thing I accomplished today, will I be satisfied with my day? If the answer is no for items 3, 4, 5, they're not truly critical for a day. Defer them, delegate them, or batch them for another time. Okay, focus on the vital few. Give them tight deadlines. What's the next big time waster to eliminate?
This one's controversial for many. The low information diet. Low information diet. Sounds countercultural in today's world.
It really is. The sources advocate for some pretty radical steps, like not watching the news, buying maybe 1 newspaper in 5 years, checking business email only once a week, say for an hour on Monday.
Whoa. Okay, my anxiety just spiked hearing that. How can you function without staying informed?
The rationale comes from thinkers like Herbert Simon, a Nobel laureate. He argued it's impossible to have perfect, complete information anyway. And more importantly, most information we consume is useless unless we can apply it immediately to something important and timely.
So reading endless news articles about potential future events is just noise. Largely, yes. It's just-in-case information hoarding for scenarios that probably won't happen, or that you can't influence anyway.
So what's the alternative? Just stick your head in the sand.
No, it's about having an information strategy. Instead of consuming everything passively, you actively seek out specific information when you need it, and you let others synthesize it for you.
Like how?
Like, instead of reading dozens of reviews for a product, call 2 or 3 trusted, knowledgeable friends who already know it. Instead of drowning in political analysis, talk to a couple of smart people whose judgment you respect.
Rediscover the lost art of conversation, basically.
Exactly. Ask targeted questions to get the specific insights you need. Or, for business, instead of reading 50 books on a topic, identify the top 5 experts and ask them specific questions.
Okay, be selective and active, not passive and overwhelmed. What about reading when it is necessary? Any tips there?
Yeah, a specific speed reading technique. First, use a visual pacer, your finger, or a pen moving it just under the line you're reading. This stops your eyes from jumping back, regressing, which is a major speed killer.
Okay, use a pacer.
Second, consciously try to focus your gaze on the third word in from the left margin and the third word in from the right margin. Don't read word for word across the whole line.
Why does that work?
It forces you to use your peripheral vision to pick up the words in between. Takes a little practice, but the source claims it can boost your reading speed by 200% or more pretty quickly without losing comprehension. Worth trying. Okay, next elimination target. Interruptions, especially email. Email is identified as probably the single biggest productivity killer and flow state disruptor.
So the rule is?
Simple, but requires discipline. Turn off all notifications, sounds, pop-ups, everything. Turn off automatic send receive.
No constant checking, no. And here's the key. Check email only twice a day at scheduled times. The source suggests maybe 12:00 p.m. and 4:00 p.m. The timing should be when you're likely to get replies back quickly from the most people. And crucially, never check email first thing in the morning.
Never. Get your most important task for the day done before you open the inbox, ideally before 11 a.m. Otherwise, you start your day reacting to other people's agendas, not driving your own.
Okay, but what happens when people expect instant replies? Won't they get annoyed?
This is where the autoresponder tactic comes in,
Yeah.
and you implement it without asking permission.
Turn it on. Yep. Set up an autoresponder that says something like, "Thanks for your email. Please note I'm currently checking email only twice daily at 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. ET to maximize focus. If your matter is urgent and requires a response before then, please call me at phone number." Ah, so you train people, you set expectations, and provide an emergency escape hatch.
Exactly. It teaches people to be more effective in their communication with you. If it's not truly urgent, they'll wait. This also applies to batching other recurring tasks.
Like paying bills or making non-urgent calls.
Right. Instead of doing small admin tasks 5 times a week for, say, 30 minutes each time, that's 150 minutes, batch them all together and do them once a week for maybe 60 minutes total.
Why is batching so much more efficient?
Because every time you switch tasks, especially from something requiring deep focus to something administrative, there's a mental switching cost. It can take like 20, 45 minutes to get back into that deep focus state after an interruption. Batching minimizes those switches.
Okay, batching is key. What about meetings? The ultimate time suck for many.
Master the art of saying no, or at least proposing alternatives. If someone suggests a meeting, especially an undefined one, push back politely. Ask, could this be handled via email instead?
Force them to clarify the objective.
Yes. If a quick exchange is needed, use the if-then structure to minimize the back and forth. Can you meet at 4 p.m. to discuss X? If so, I'll send the agenda. If not, please suggest 3 other times that work. It puts the onus on them to be specific. Avoid open-ended meetings at all costs.
Makes sense. Finally, under elimination, we have empowerment failures, which is basically micromanagement, right?
Yeah, it's when the boss or the owner becomes the bottleneck for every tiny decision. Nothing moves without their approval.
Which kills productivity and morale. Totally. The solution is simple. Give your subordinates or your outsourcers explicit written permission to solve small problems autonomously. The brain quicken example for customer service was pretty striking here.
It really was. The author was getting over 200 emails a day just about minor customer service issues, lost packages, small refunds, etc. It was drowning him.
So he implemented a policy, a blanket policy. If fixing a customer problem costs less than $100, just fix it. Use your judgment, make the customer happy, and don't bother me unless it's over that amount. A $100 autonomy rule. What happened?
2 things. First, customer satisfaction went up. Returns actually dropped below the industry average. Second, he saved himself over 100 hours a month of dealing with minor issues.
Wow, just by trusting people to do their jobs.
It seems, as the source notes, that people's IQ magically doubles when you give them responsibility and trust them to use it. They focus on solving the problem, not just following procedures or waiting for approval.
Okay, we've eliminated the waste and freed up time. Now we move to A for automation. This is about building that income stream that runs without you, right? Building the muse, exactly. This is where we get the second ingredient, income, ideally passive income. And interestingly, the sources suggest starting by outsourcing parts of your personal life first as training wheels for business outsourcing. Personal life, how does that work?
It involves geo-arbitrage leveraging global cost differences, hiring virtual assistants, VAs, in places like India or the Philippines for tasks that are repetitive or time-consuming but don't require your specific expertise.
So not just for business tasks, but personal stuff too.
Yeah, the A.J. Jacobs Esquire article anecdote is hilarious and illuminating. He hired VAs from India, Honey Balani, Asha for all sorts of things. Research, sure, but also formatting memos, screening emails.
And even mediating an argument with his wife.
Yes, that was the craziest part. He asked his VA Asha to basically apologize to his wife for him after a spat, but he also wanted her to subtly include some digs about his wife being forgetful.
Passive-aggressive outsourcing. How did that go?
Well, the VAs focused on desired satisfaction, wisely edited out his jabs. They refused to escalate the conflict and just sent a neutral, polite apology e-card with teddy bears. They managed his emotional outburst for him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But it also highlights how much trust is involved. You're giving someone access to very personal parts of your life.
Absolutely, and that's part of the point. It forces you to learn how to delegate, communicate clearly, and trust people you've never met working remotely. It's practice for managing a larger automated business.
He even outsourced worrying.
Yeah, he had a business deal that was dragging on, causing him anxiety, so he literally tasked his VA with worrying about it for him, meaning handling all the follow-up calls, checking statuses, etc. And he found that knowing someone else was diligently on the case actually reduced his mental burden.
So you learn to trust the system, even if the system involves humans remotely executing tasks. It's training for becoming that remote control CEO. Precisely. The underlying philosophy has to shift towards systems over staff. Automate what can be automated, delegate what can be delegated, and only do what only you can do. Okay, so let's talk about the product itself, the Muse, the vehicle for this automated income. There's some pretty strict rules for choosing one, aren't there? Very strict criteria, designed to maximize profit and minimize hassle. First, the price point. It must sell to the customer for between $50 and $200. Why that specific range? Below $50, you tend to attract customers who complain more and require more support, plus the margins are thin. Above $200, the sales process often gets longer, requires more interaction, more convincing. That $50 to $200 range hits a sweet spot. Serious enough customers, but still an impulse buy for many, and it allows for fantastic margins. Speaking of margins, the target is pretty high.
The goal is an 8 to 10 times markup over your cost of goods sold, COGS. So if it costs you $10 to make and deliver, you should be selling it for $80 to $100.
8 to 10x. Wow. What else?
It needs to be manufacturable quickly, no more than 3 to 4 weeks from placing an order with your supplier to having shippable product. This keeps inventory costs down and lets you adapt fast.
Okay, fast turnaround.
And, crucially, the product must be fully explainable in a good online FAQ. This is vital for minimizing customer service time, which is often the biggest time drain for small online businesses. If people can find the answer online, they won't contact you.
The sources seem to heavily favor information products like courses, DVDs, ebooks. Why is that?
Several reasons. They have very low marginal cost once created, making another copy is virtually free. Manufacturing is instant. And they have a higher barrier to entry for competitors.
How so? Compared to physical goods. Think about it. If you create a popular physical product like a cool t-shirt or gadget, replicas can show up on eBay or Amazon within weeks. But a detailed information product like a unique course or guide is much harder and more time-consuming for someone else to copy without blatant infringement. Your unique knowledge is the competitive advantage.
Okay, but what if you're listening and thinking, I don't have any special expertise to sell for $150?
That's a common mental block. First, you need to niche down. Don't try to appeal to everyone.
Be a big fish in a small pond.
Exactly. Instead of selling generic fitness advice, focus on kettlebell training for busy dads over 40. Instead of car accessories, maybe restoration parts for classic Porsche 911s. Niching reduces competition and makes marketing way cheaper and more targeted.
Like the author focusing Brain Quicken on martial artists and powerlifters, not just general athletes.
Precisely. But even if you don't feel like an expert now, the sources claim you can create the perception of expertise surprisingly quickly, like in less than 4 weeks. 4 weeks to become an expert. How on earth? It's about rapidly acquiring credibility markers. 3 main steps. 1, read the top 3 to 5 books on your niche topic. 2, join a couple of relevant trade organizations. Just paying the membership fee gives you an affiliation. 3, give a free 1-3-hour seminar or workshop at a local university extension or even a large company. This instantly makes you a lecturer. Okay, read, join, speak.
And 4th, potentially join a service like ProfNet or 8A Row, help a reporter out, where journalists look for expert sources to quote. Getting quoted just once in any media outlet adds massive credibility. Suddenly, you're an expert who's been published and lectures on the topic.
It's about building perceived authority quickly, not necessarily getting a PhD.
Exactly. In the world of online marketing and PR, expert status is often more about these external signals than deep academic credentials.
Okay, so you've picked your niche, maybe created your info product concept. Before you invest serious time or money, you need to test if anyone will actually buy it. Micro-testing.
This is absolutely crucial, the $500 test. The goal is to validate your product idea in about 5 days, spending $500 or less, primarily using targeted online ads like Google AdWords, PPC.
How does that work without actually having the product ready?
You're essentially testing the advertisement and the offer. You create simple ads driving traffic to a basic one-page website describing your product and offer. You measure clicks and, more importantly, conversion intent.
Like the French sailor shirts example.
Yeah, Sherwood wanted to sell these shirts. He set up an ad and a simple page. When people clicked purchase, they landed on a page saying, temporarily out of stock, enter email to be notified. He counted clicks on purchase as hypothetical sales.
So you could test different prices, different guarantees.
Exactly. He tested adding a 2x money-back guarantee and saw his hypothetical purchase clicks jump from 3 to 7. That proved the stronger guarantee was likely worth implementing.
And Johanna, testing her Yoga for Rock Climbers DVD?
She used a slightly different approach. Instead of a fake purchase button, she offered a free PDF, Top 10 Yoga Tips for Climbers, in exchange for an email address. She counted a certain percentage of signups, like 60%, as likely buyers. If enough people were interested in the topic to give their email, the product was probably viable.
So very low risk, data-driven validation before you commit real resources.
Minimal risk.
Yeah.
If the ads don't convert, you kill the idea and you've only spent a few $100s, not thousands, on inventory or development.
Okay, demand is proven. Now you build the virtual architecture, the system that runs itself.
Right. You need to map out the entire process flow. Where do customers come from? Ads, affiliates, where do they go? Website, maybe call center, how do they pay? Payment processor, how does the product get to them? Fulfillment center, how does the money get to you? Bank.
And the key is that you are not personally involved in any of those steps on a day-to-day basis.
Ideally, no. Each step should be handled by an automated system or an outsourced company that specializes in that function.
What are the rules for managing these outsourcers effectively, especially when you're remote?
Hire companies, not individual freelancers, for critical functions like fulfillment or call centers. A company has redundancy. A freelancer can get sick or disappear.
Okay, companies for reliability.
Insist that the companies communicate with each other when necessary. Your fulfillment house needs to get order info from your payment processor, not from you acting as a middleman.
Remove yourself as the bottleneck.
Exactly.
And rule 3, give them that written permission we talked about earlier, the power to make inexpensive decisions autonomously. Start with maybe a $100 limit, then increase it to $400 or more as you build trust. Let them solve small problems without needing your input. This sounds like how Stephen McDonald ran Applegate Farms, spending only 1 day a week at the office for 17 years.
That's the aspiration, building a system so robust that your physical presence is largely unnecessary for operations. Okay, one last piece of automation. Simplifying things through undecision and customer curation. Yes, embrace the Henry Ford approach. Any color he wants so long as it's black. Limit customer choices.
Why? Doesn't more choice mean more sales?
Often, no. Too many options lead to paralysis by analysis, abandoned carts, and increased complexity for your fulfillment. Offer maybe 1 or 2 core product versions and only 1, maybe 2 shipping options, like standard and express. Keep it simple.
Less friction, fewer things to manage, and then fire bad customers. We're back to firing people.
Well, applying the 80-20 principle to your customer base after you launch, you'll inevitably find that a small percentage of customers generate a huge percentage of your headaches. Constant calls, unreasonable demands using problematic payment methods like checks or Western Union.
Oh, high-maintenance ones.
Exactly. The sources argue these customers might account for, say, 40% of your support time and cost, but maybe only 10-15% of your revenue. The math just doesn't work.
So what do? Just stop selling to them.
You can, or you can simply stop accepting the payment methods they favor, or stop offering the support channels they abuse. You gently guide them away. It might slightly decrease top-line revenue, but it dramatically increases profitability and, more importantly, frees up your time and reduces stress. The best, most profitable customers are often the lowest maintenance.
Focus on the good ones, automate the process, simplify the options. That's the core of A for automation.
What's the goal? Build the machine, then let it run.
Okay, we've defined the new rules, eliminated the waste, automated the income. We finally arrive at L for liberation. Getting truly free.
This is the payoff. Mobility, freedom. And for many, it starts with the challenge of negotiating remote work if you're currently in a traditional job. Achieving what the Japanese call datsusara, escaping the salaryman life.
How do you even start that conversation? Most bosses aren't exactly thrilled about remote work.
The core strategy relies on the work you did in the elimination phase. You need to have already used those principles to drastically increase your measurable productivity. You need to be so valuable, so effective, that losing you would be a significant pain point for your employer.
So you build leverage first through performance.
Exactly. Make yourself indispensable through results, not just hours logged in the office. The anecdote about Dave Camarillo, the HP engineer, is pretty wild.
He went to China for a month and didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, forwarded his work calls to his wife's cell phone, because he was delivering top-tier results and meeting all deadlines, apparently. Nobody noticed or cared where he physically was.
That's bold. Maybe too bold for most people. Is there a more structured approach?
Yes, Sherwood's five-step plan is much more practical for negotiation. It's phased to reduce resistance.
Okay, step 1.
Use bracketing. Ask for something slightly bigger than what you want. Maybe ask for 2 remote days a week, hoping to settle for one as a trial run.
Okay, start with the trial. Step 2.
Over-deliver on those remote days. Make your productivity undeniable. Document it. Send reports showing increased output compared to your office days.
Build the business case with data. Step 3.
Use those results to justify expanding the remote arrangement. Look how much more I got done working from home 1 day a week. Imagine if I did 4.
Leverage the proof. Step 4.
Once 4 days remote is the norm, make the case for full mobility. Argue that the occasional required office day is actually disruptive to your proven high-focus remote workflow.
Push for full freedom. And step 5. If they still say no, if management refuses, despite clear evidence of your increased productivity and value, well, the source is blunt. You recognize they value control over results, and it's time to fire their asses and find an employer who does, or implement your muse. Okay, assuming you achieve liberation, either through negotiation or entrepreneurship, then you can embrace the mini retirements we talked about earlier.
Right, that lifestyle of relocating for 1 to 6 months at a time, the anti-vacation, living somewhere long enough for it to actually impact you.
And financially, this isn't necessarily more expensive than staying put, is it? Often it's significantly cheaper. Think about it. You pause or eliminate your big home country expenses, mortgage rent, car payments, high insurance, maybe utilities. You replace them with potentially much lower costs in your chosen destination, especially if you use geo-arbitrage. The examples given were pretty striking. A penthouse in Buenos Aires for $550 a month. A big apartment in Berlin, including utilities, for $300.
Yeah, leveraging currency differences while earning income in a stronger currency like USD or EUR can make a luxurious lifestyle surprisingly affordable elsewhere. It's often way cheaper than a typical 2-week sightseeing vacation where you're paying tourist prices for everything.
Okay, so you're planning your first mini retirement. What about packing? People tend to overpack for long trips. The advice from experienced serial vagabonds in the sources is unanimous and counterintuitive. Take less with you. Way less. Like how much less?
Pack as if you're only going for 1 week. Seriously. Resist the urge to pack for every possible contingency.
But what if I need something I didn't bring?
You establish a small settling fund, maybe $100 to $300. When you arrive, you use that to buy essentials or incidentals, locally soap, a warmer jacket if needed, a local guidebook. It's almost always easier and cheaper than hauling tons of stuff around the world. Minimizing physical baggage also minimizes mental baggage, which connects to the next point. Purging baggage, both material and emotional.
Right. Getting rid of physical clutter, the stuff in your closets and garage you haven't used in years, does more than just free up space. It creates extra mental space, too.
Yeah.
Less stuff to manage, store, worry about.
Letting go of those things disguised as necessities. Yeah, the second car, the boxes of old t-shirts, the collections gathering dust. But then there's the emotional baggage, which can lead to a surprising problem once you achieve freedom.
The existential void. What's that?
It's what happens when high achievers suddenly remove all the external structure, the deadlines, the bosses, the constant demands. They get the freedom they crave, but then feel bored, aimless, even depressed.
So what now feeling?
Exactly. Without external pressures, the mind can turn inward, start creating problems, or just feel adrift. Social isolation can also be a factor if you're used to a busy office environment.
So freedom isn't automatically bliss. You need to actively fill the void. How? The sources point to 2 fundamental components for a fulfilled life as a new rich: continual learning and service. Okay, learning. What kind of learning? The recommendation is very specific. Combine language acquisition with learning a kinesthetic skill, especially while traveling. Language and movement. Why that combo? Travel itself accelerates learning. Imagine moving to Rio. Focus on learning Brazilian Portuguese language and maybe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Kinesthetic skill. The language helps you integrate. The physical skill provides structure, challenge, and often a social outlet. And the sources argue adults can learn languages faster than kids if they're not bogged down by a 9 to 5.
Yeah, with focused effort, conversational fluency in 6 months is considered achievable. The physical skill provides immediate feedback and a sense of progress that combats mental drift.
Okay, learning. What about service?
Service, defined broadly as improving the quality of life for others. It doesn't have to be grand, but it provides purpose beyond yourself. The example given is Robin, who traveled South America with her family for a year.
What did they do?
They integrated volunteering into their travels, rehabilitating exotic animals in Bolivia, building wheelchairs for the disabled in Ecuador. Giving back provided structure, meaning, and connection, effectively filling that potential void.
Learning and service as antidotes to aimlessness. Makes sense. Before we wrap up, what are the top mistakes people make when trying to become new rich?
There are a few common pitfalls mentioned. First, not defining goals clearly enough at the start. Vague dreams lead to vague actions and results.
Need that concrete vision from the D phase.
Exactly. Second, slipping back into micromanagement, handling problems you're paying outsourcers to handle, you have to let go.
Undermining your own automation.
Third, making non-urgent things urgent just to feel busy or important. That's falling back into the old habit of valuing effort over effectiveness.
Laziness disguised as ambition again.
And fourth, viewing one job, one product, one project as the end-all, be-all, getting too attached. The NR lifestyle is about flexibility. If one muse dries up or one mini retirement location gets boring, you pivot. You create something new or move somewhere else. No situation is permanent unless you let it be.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap that deal framework one more time. It's the blueprint we've been exploring to, escape the 9 to 5 now, not decades from now.
Right.
D for definition, changing the rules, focusing on relative income, using fear setting, planning mini retirements. E for elimination, cutting the 80% of wasted effort using Pareto and Parkinson's, adopting a low-info diet, batching tasks, and empowering others. A for automation, building that muse, a niche, high-margin, automated business, likely an info product, tested thoroughly and run by outsourced systems. And L for liberation, negotiating remote work or going full entrepreneur, embracing mobility through mini retirements, and filling the resulting freedom with learning and service.
And the engine driving this whole process, it's action. Especially uncomfortable action.
Yeah, the sources emphasize that the most important steps are rarely the easy ones.
Absolutely. The call to action is really to resolve today to do one thing, just one thing every day that you fear. Maybe it's making that call, sending that email, starting that fear-setting exercise. That daily dose of constructive discomfort is what creates momentum.
Which leads perfectly into our final thought for today.
Mm-hmm.
The sources make this really interesting distinction between two kinds of mistakes.
Yeah, mistakes of ambition versus mistakes of sloth.
Okay, explain those.
Mistakes of ambition are deciding to act, maybe with incomplete information, maybe taking a calculated risk. You jump in. These are actually encouraged because, well, fortune often favors the bold. You learn from doing.
Okay, acting despite uncertainty. What are mistakes of sloth?
Mistakes of sloth are the opposite. It's refusing to act, refusing to change a situation you know is bad, purely out of fear, inertia, or maybe just laziness. Staying stuck.
And the provocative idea is?
If you define risk accurately, again, as the likelihood of an irreversible negative outcome, then which type of mistake is truly riskier?
The mistake of sloth, the inaction.
Exactly. Because the lost time, the lost potential, the years spent unhappy or unfulfilled, that's the irreversible outcome. You can't get those years back. Failing at something you try is usually fixable. Failing to try is permanent.
So inaction is the greatest risk of all. It reminds me of that line from the slow dance poem the source referenced. Something about running so fast you miss the fun.
Right. When you run so fast to get somewhere, you miss half the fun of getting there, which is a caution against mindless hustle. But the flip side is also true, isn't it? If you refuse to move at all out of fear, well, then you miss all of it.
A powerful place to leave it. Food for thought.